Nobody ever said, wow, that was great advice when you said relax, when something was heated or calm down. Those are some of the worst things you can say to people. And yet people keep saying them, Vin, and it keeps moving that emotional side of it to feel like emotions are negative. Emotions aren't negative. Emotional intelligence is utilizing your emotions in your emotional bank, so to speak,
Yeah.
well for your situation. Now, a very emotionally intelligent thing to do is to also say, Vin, respecting this is very important to you. Please know that my energy level isn't at its best and you deserve that. Let's please schedule in a half an hour from now, because that's not apologizing either. Emotional intelligence is knowing that the environment, how it works.
One of my favorite interviewees is returning. Debbie has been in my corner since I graduated with my MBA. She's been on the pod a bunch of times. She's been on Pod O'Clock, a mental health break. I'll drop some links below. And today, Debbie is coming with us to talk about some things that may be helping a lot of people to talk about, right? Imposter syndrome, emotional intelligence, her amazing work in the executive presence space. Debbie, welcome back to That Entrepreneur Show.
Vin, thanks. Happy to be back on That Entrepreneur Show. How exciting. Congratulations. You have continued to just knock it out of the park. And it's been so fun to see how many of your guests give us really good information, great tips, good perspective. Looking forward to sharing a few minutes with you right now.
Well, thanks for the kind words. And everyone, be sure to not only stick around to the end to find out how to work with her, how to get in touch with her, but go through her episodes to check out her evolution, because I know how inspiring it is and it will inspire you too. But of course, welcome back to That Entrepreneur Show. Thank you for tuning in each week and keeping this a top 2.5% global show. We are brought to you today by ComingAlivePodcastProduction.com to jumpstart your journey today. And as I said in the beginning, we're hitting on a lot of big topics right now that are big challenges in the world. But in case you're new to Debbie Lundberg, please introduce yourself a little bit before we dive into the entrepreneurship world.
Thanks and welcome everyone to the show. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Debbie Lundberg, performance, mindset, and resilience coach with Presenting Powerfully. Presenting Powerfully is a Florida-based firm that works primarily in the United States to assist individuals and organizations with growing in their leadership development, their kindness and emotional intelligence, their strategy, and their delivery. So it's a lot of fun to do it either individually with one-on-one, working behind the scenes to strategize with them on letting themselves become their best, or an organization to do that wholly. So that's a bit about the organization. And I'm 1/3 of Team Lundberg. Michael, Daisy, and I are at day 578 of the days that we've been displaced from Hurricane Helene. And hopefully we're on day 93 toward countdown of getting into a place. So it's not only what happens in our businesses, but what happens as individuals and how we progress through it. We say, grow through what you go through. And certainly we've had that challenge and that opportunity over the past couple of years. And it's good to be here today and looking forward to what's to come.
Well, I'm so sorry as always for what you're going through. Everyone, if you don't live in the South, you're not susceptible to these major storms. And Debbie has unfortunately been experienced the negative parts of government and federal help and all of these things, but there's enough to worry about in entrepreneurship, juggling all these things. Can you maybe speak on, if someone else is in a situation where they are displaced, how the heck do you do it? Debbie is one of the best mindset people to go to her podcast, The Business of Life Masterclass, where you'll hear a lot more in her. But how do you find a way to not just keep your business going, but stay mentally sane?
Well, then you're one of the people who came and assisted us, and that will never be forgotten. And a big part of it is who you surround yourself with matters. So if you think of it in different pods, so to speak, of how your mindset is impacted, it's the people you're around, it's the perspective you have. So that's the gratitude, and it's the position you choose to take. So think people, that perspective, and position. So the people you are around, much like you and Barb, who's my co-host on the Business of Life Masterclass podcast, everybody in what I call my awesomeness squad, which there are 19 women in that group, everybody really came together. So if someone else is unfortunately displaced, which could mean a change of in their lives, a loss of a marriage or in a situation or a job or a home, like what happened with us, go for those three things. Like, who are the people you can really trust? Not those who will commiserate only or agree with everything you say, but those who will uplift you and be there for you and sometimes give you some pushback. And then what's the perspective you're going to take? Is it everything we lost? Or for those who are seeing the video, everything that you see on that wall behind us is every single thing that was on the walls in our entire home of 20 years that survived. So we chose to put it on the wall behind me and my office so that in all the videos, that perspective is the reminder. So are we being grateful for what we have or hateful for what we don't? And then that position, what position are you going to take? And they lead, right? The people who are around you lead you a lot into your perspective. The position, though, you take is how you outwardly and inwardly speak about your situation. You mentioned the challenges with government, the challenges on the delays with things and particular people. The position we take is proving frugal can be fun and you can't make this stuff up and wouldn't want to go through it with anybody other than Michael. So when people ask about it, we're consistent and it's not phony. And we tell people it's a challenge. We often say, wouldn't wish this on anyone. At the same time, the position we choose to take is we will move through it and be successful. So if a listener is in a situation where there's a loss of something, anything, that's important because it's your feelings. So who are the people you'll trust? What's your perspective? What can you be grateful for? And how will you position it moving forward? And then that old adage of one step at a time, one movement at a time, one decision at a time really does become the way you get to the other side.
I love the positivity, and everyone, depending on how you look at a situation, will be how that situation plays out. There's a lot of out of your control, but you can control what you can. And as I started in the beginning, we're going to talk about a few areas today through this present day going up and up, the pressures from the world, the challenges. We're in war, imposter syndrome, something you speak a lot about. You're an expert. Let's dive in.
Sure. Well, men and women alike, while it's not new, it seems to resurface at different times. And there's been studies on it called the imposter epidemic. The imposter became syndrome through certain people, but it is a condition where more women than men, but at the same time, men and women feel as though they haven't earned their place. They're not necessarily worthy of the position they're in, and therefore feel that they must work so diligently to position and not look like they don't know things and really keep the wheels going so much so that it can burn them out because they think other people will discover that they're not of the value when in fact people have typically earned their way there. Now, is there a bit of luck? Is there a bit of other people bringing you along? Of course, because I just spoke of people and perspective and positioning. At the same time, if you're not certain about something, saying, I don't know, and I'll get back to you by Tuesday, close a business via email is so much more powerful than making up an answer. So imposter syndrome, if you're feeling doubt, we're noticing a lot of people are feeling it in their home lives too, because there's such a blur that it used to be home was a bit of a reprieve from feeling that way. With social media and with groups and positioning how people do sometimes, they don't necessarily give themselves some downtime. So if you're feeling that you're not worthy or you don't belong where you are, stop and go back to those things I mentioned earlier. Who are you surrounding yourself? What are you telling yourself? And remind yourself of the things that you've done to get the education and the experience and how you can bring that as a positive to move it forward. But it's natural to feel it in some ways, and yet it's not natural to continue to live under that pressure.
I love how you said remembering the great things you've accomplished and achieved in the social media era where we're comparing. I only have LinkedIn and Instagram on my phone. I have my social media timers. And of course, I'm unorthodox. I'm like a grandpa at night. I need to power down from electronics, like you're talking about, for my brain to stop working. And with your talks on imposter syndrome, you've really leaned into this executive presence like work. And I'm so proud of you because I know how hard you work. And everyone, be sure again to go back to not just her early episodes here in the description, but the Business of Life Masterclass episodes, because you check out her evolution into where she is today. So let's talk about it.
Well, executive presence is how people perceive your brand, the way you speak, the way you communicate, the way you relate to other people. And it's a lot about how we say things. It's the articulation. It's how we dress. And everybody has the right to say it shouldn't be that way. The truth is, it is that way. So we make these assessments. Now, I encourage clients to assess, not judge. When we're assessing, we're learning. When we're judging, we're comparing. And
Yeah.
comparison can be very detrimental, as you mentioned earlier, Ben. So with executive presence, how are you starting your emails? How are you beginning meetings? Instead of saying, thanks everybody for coming, let's get started, instead, say in the next 20 to 30 minutes, the goal is for all of us collectively to decide on X. We'll do that through these 3 points on the agenda, starting with then covering that. And then you get started. So I have this Lundbergism that says, as how it starts is how it goes, and how it goes is how it flows, and how it flows is how it ends. So if we don't begin positively and purposefully, not just the thanks for being here, showing that we not only command the room, we care about the people in it enough to know that their presence is valuable and we're going to honor their time.
And I think even we were talking about something unrelated about honoring time before the show, and it's super important. For me, I use a calendar invitation system where it says, hey, this must be accepted at least a day out, or we'll reschedule to protect both of our times. A lot of times that doesn't happen. So Danica will push to the next availability, and then we'll get some pushbacks. Hey, like we did something. I said, no, we're going to value our time, because a lot of times with interviews and things, people get busy. One of my least favorite parts of the virtual world is you wouldn't do these things if it were an in-person interaction, where now the virtual world is exposed to that. But thank you for highlighting all the great work you do. Who would you say is your ideal client right now? Who can you serve the most?
Ideal clients are C-suite level. It doesn't have to be C-suite. It happens to be who I'm working with a lot. Moving from COO to CEO on spinoffs or new organizations, people who are at the director level, moving to the VP level, VP to C-suite, because that's where the doubt comes in and they've had so much that they've accomplished. It's also where boards are looking at them. The presentation skills are so important. The part we didn't talk about, executive presence, is the full presentation, not only your articulation, your command of the room and up in front of people. So people who want to invest in themselves, or the organizations who want to invest in them, to advance.
I absolutely love everything you're saying, and whatever your brand may be, know what goes with that, right? And now, in order to have a great executive presence, we need to, of course, move past imposter syndrome, but we also need to work on our EQ, right? Our emotional intelligence, and many could say it could be at an all-time low right now. So maybe let's dive into your perspective, some things you're seeing.
So emotional intelligence, when you look at it, is not being able to squash or quell your emotions. It's more about understanding that we all are a series of emotions, and our emotions drive our behaviors, drive our habits. So this perspective on emotional intelligence may be slightly different, although I'm certified in very traditional ways. How are our emotions driving the stories we're telling ourselves? So if I'm feeling that imposter syndrome you mentioned, and I don't feel like I look my best, then I'm going to start to tell myself this isn't a good day. So the emotions start to creep in. And then I'm telling myself a story that isn't based in truth. It's based in a peculiar inner perception. So emotional intelligence is assessing my own emotions versus reality and the emotions of those around me, not to control them, rather to be able to regulate, understand, appreciate, and respect those of others for the timing of when you communicate, relate, interact. So all of that matters, because nobody ever said, wow, that was great advice when you said relax, when something was heated, or calm down. Those are some of the worst things you can say to people. And yet people keep saying them, Vin, and it keeps moving that emotional side of it to feel like emotions are negative. Emotions aren't negative. Emotional intelligence is utilizing your emotions in your emotional bank, so to speak,
Yeah.
well for your situation. Now, a very emotionally intelligent thing to do is to also say, Vin, respecting this is very important to you. Please know that my energy level isn't at its best and you deserve that. Let's please schedule in a half an hour from now, because that's not apologizing either. Emotional intelligence is knowing that the environment, how it works. Ultimately, we do measure optimism in emotional intelligence, and optimism isn't popcorn positivity or thinking everything should be awesome, so to speak. No, it's about, do I believe that in the position I'm in right now with the tools I have or the people who are around, can I move through this successfully? And when we have optimism like that, and you're talking about imposter syndrome and executive presence, that means we don't have to falsify. We can say, I don't know how, and yet I know I will. And that's optimism.
I
So
absolutely love
ultimately,
it.
maintain your optimism, not your positivity as much.
And we learned through her story today how hard it may be to maintain that optimism, but we gave some great tools, some great tips, and great strategies. And we talked on a lot of important areas. So stick around for her contact info. But I cannot let the show go by without circling back to the Business of Life Masterclass, another awesome podcast on comingalive.podcastproduction.com and our family love. You'll see that picture there of the great work they do. But in case someone has not heard about this awesome podcast, let's revisit it for them.
Absolutely. The Business of Life Masterclass podcast is in our 8th season. We are over 300 episodes. Well, coming up, we have those already recorded. That'll be released soon. Very excited about the milestone. We've taken all your advice and counsel, and we welcome all of your feedback. You were a person who was wonderful early on the show. We ask what we call the podcast the 4 questions we ask every guest, so that they can share consistently with what we call our life learners, our listeners. And then Barb and I do something unusual. We implement what they tell us to do and we report back. So every guest has their show and what we call a follow through show to tell what we did with the advice that we received. It's been a pleasure over the last 8 seasons, and we look forward to many more.
Oh, congratulations on all the great work you're putting through, not just your professional life, but through the podcast. Everyone, you don't have to use Coming Alive podcast production, but I challenge you to get your story out there. You never know who will click play from any part of the world at any time. It's a great tool for just so many things, and it's been great to see their show evolve. I was a guest on their show, my first guest appearance, which led to me launching that entrepreneur show eventually. So all those things from the great lessons I learned, not just on that show, but from the way Debbie carries her day to day, her passion and enthusiasm for her business and craft, which everyone you need in entrepreneurship. The highs are great, but the lows will debilitate you if you let them, right? You need to find a way to maintain optimism, be grateful for what you have. And Debbie, you also got a few books. So I'm just going to challenge everyone to Google her name, put it in Amazon. But if they have not checked out any of your books, what's one you want to recommend?
The one I'd recommend right now is Beyond Networking 101, because you mentioned earlier we have such a state of discomfort right now. And Beyond Networking 101 is 101 very quick tips on moving beyond card collecting to truly connecting. So from before an event to during an event to after the event, and how you do that sincerely to build the relationship. So it's a toolbox, a toolkit for feeling really good about being out there in the network and growing the impact you're having on other people and them is on you.
All right, everyone. We'll go ahead, get to Amazon, type it in. Debbie Lundberg, Lundberg. Debbie, I can't thank you enough for coming back. Again, everyone, in the show description, we'll drop the links to her early shows. So remember to subscribe so you don't miss her next appearance and everything in between. But where can we find you online? How can we work with you?
Best way to find me is DebbieLundberg.com. And on all social media, I'm Debbie Lundberg. I'm Debbie Lundberg Coach on TikTok.
All right, everyone, be sure to go follow, connect, subscribe. She's a great person to have in your network. And my name is Vincent A. Lancy. I want to thank you again for tuning in to That Entrepreneur Show, brought to you by Coming Alive, podcastproduction.com. Here in Tampa, there's a lot of great entrepreneurs, but this is one of the best. So again, that's Debbie Lundberg, Lundberg. Check her out on social media, her website, and everything in between. But with that, Debbie, we're signing off to Tampa entrepreneurs. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I would love to hear your feedback. What did you love? What do you want to see more of? Are there any questions you would like me to ask the guests who come on the show? This show is not possible without you, the amazing listeners, so please email us at podcastsbylancy@gmail.com and let us know what you think. We'll also feature you on a later show. Please remember to subscribe to stay current with our amazing community of guests who will continue to come on the show, sprinkled in with solo episodes from me, Vincent A. Lancy. With that, I look forward to introducing more shows to you each and every week. And with that, we're signing off today. Enjoy the episodes and make it a great day ahead.